All right. Hey, everybody. This is Homo Money. I'm here. I'm joined with a couple people from the LGBT community, Lea Landa Verde and the Trans Capitalist. Hey, guys. Thanks for joining me.
Hello.
What's up?
I'm very excited about this conversation. This whole thing started because I just finished a class on critical thinking. And my final paper that I wanted to write on was, is financial independence a white privilege? And I've noticed that in the FIRE community, and definitely with the more traditional financial influencers and authors, there's a lot of cisgendered white males. And I definitely wanted to just kind of like explore this topic some more. And so for anybody who's joining this video or watching it on YouTube or on social media, there's going to be a link in the description on YouTube, and it's going to link to my blog post. And that blog post is essentially a repurposed version of that paper that I wrote. And so while I was doing the research, I was kind of made aware of a lot of the challenges that the Black and the Hispanic community is up against. And so to just kind of make this more well-rounded, I didn't want this whole blog post to just be about doom and gloom. I really wanted to kind of spotlight some people who are really crushing it in the Black and Hispanic community. And so that's where you both step in. And so to just kick things off, can you each share with me your name, how you identify, and where are you right now on the path to FI? Feel free to give as much financial detail as you're comfortable with too.
Sure. I'll let Leah go first.
All right, thank you. So my name is Lea Landa Verde. I'm a wealth activist and coach. My pronouns are she, her, ella, including that, Spanish in there. But, honestly, in the financial independence journey, I feel like I perceive it very different than what textbook is, Financial independence for me is if I can pay my bills and do it all by myself, because it is, as we go through this whole financial independence journey, I'll tell you why it is a privilege to pursue financial independence. So yeah, that's about me.
Nice.
Awesome. So hey, everybody, I'm Kenneth Davis, aka the Trans Capitalist. So I am a financial literacy coach that I teach financial literacy to the LGBTQ community, but heavily focus on the transgender community, as I'm part of that community. I am a transgender male, female to male. And for me, financial independence is definitely like what I highlight in my business is we touch on the emotional and mental aspects of money as well. So for financial independence, starting with the mind first is being free from anxiety with money, being able to handle like large sums of money, or even being quick on your feet to figure out what you have to do in order to hit your financial goals. And then on top of that, in like the monetary sense, is definitely like, as Leah said, like paying your bills, letting like you can live comfortably. Or as I like to say, everybody has different definitions of like what lifestyle you want to live and how you're able to afford that lifestyle and go in that path.
Right. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Kenneth, about mindset, because that's exactly why I wanted to spotlight a couple of the voices from the racial minority community. And especially because you're both LGBT, it's just kind of like one step more impressive. The fact that, you both overcome these hurdles of being LGBT and then of being a racial minority. And I'm always impressed to see people who are successful from both of your communities, because from the little bit of research I've done, I've seen how many hurdles have been put in the way of African Americans. And then for the Hispanic community, I mean, to see how so many business people, like English may not even be their first language, and yet they're crushing it more so than somebody who was born in the US and spoke English their whole life. So I have to give you guys a shout out. I'm so impressed by both of you.
Thank you.
So how long has it taken you to get to this point? Like, how long have you been following different concepts of financial literacy and educating yourself to be where you are today?
So I'll start. My journey really started when I was 15 years old. I started college at 15 because I witnessed my parents go through bankruptcy and foreclosure and losing everything to the point where we were homeless. So my parents really pushed acknowledging and taking advantage of my privilege of being a U.S. citizen, as they're not U.S. citizens. So they pushed me to get an education, take advantage of scholarships, take advantage of everything. And I got into a program that I could study college in high school. And I got, a bachelor's degree, a master's in finance. And so both of them really, I've been doing this work for a really, really long time. I'm almost 25, so almost 10 years. But, being in the industry 6 years from investment banking, wealth management, and now as I've been running my business for over a year. So that's where I've been able to actually do the work for the community, expose and, be transparent about the financial system and how us as minorities, us as people of color, as queer individuals, don't have the same privileges as everybody else. And it's all about being real and raw about what that looks like and how we can redefine our own version of wealth and not strive to be the white man. Instead, we can strive to be ourselves, but the best, wealthiest versions of ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, that's dope. So definitely for me, in 2009, I was kicked out and disowned. So for me, it was either the streets or go to college. And at that time, I chose college, and I just majored in the most expensive engineering program. So I became a civil engineer, and I was able to make six figures, but I was heavily depressed. And I was living paycheck to paycheck, and like my car was about to be repossessed. I was facing eviction, got out of a toxic relationship. Like it was just all raining down on me. Like it was just horrible. And I had a mental break in the shower because I didn't know I was going to pay next month's bills. And what helped me was that like I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't even know how I got it, but I just read the first chapter and I was enamored. And I like studied that whole thing. And the biggest thing that hit me is like, oh crap, like there's rules to money. Nobody ever told me this. Like the advice I got from my parents was just, oh, go to school, get a good job, and all your problems are solved. That's a myth, because I lived that life and that was not working out for me. So for me, definitely around 2016, since I was able to make money, I studied everything. And since I had nothing, I got a library card because that was free. So when I wasn't working, I was in the library, like studying business books, studying financial articles, like anything I can get myself in. And I was able to build myself out of debt. And I was able to get back on my feet. And I was like stronger than ever. So my friends noticed and they were just like, hey, you should teach this. And I was just like, nah, you're crazy. So for me, that even drove me to go to business school, where I got my master's in finance, because I wanted to know what cis white gender males knew on Wall Street that I didn't know. And when I was able to get all those secrets, I was just like, yo, I'm sharing this with everybody, and especially in my community. So for me, that's why I did the Trans Capitalist in 2016, because especially when Trump was in office, I knew the only good thing that was ever going to come out of it is business. So that's when I established my brand and business in that year and building it up to where I am now, where I have a successful business, which is awesome, teaching financial literacy all over the world or all over the States. So yeah, that was for me how I was getting my journey. And now I just keep learning more, and everything I learn, I share it.
Yeah.
And you look pretty young also, Kenneth. How long ago was that you first started your finance education?
So I'm 33 right now. I was like about to be 34 in October, but yeah, 2015. Yeah, like 2015, 2016.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's when I started my financial journey.
That's a great testament to the idea that, you don't have to be studying this for years, for decades, to kind of get proficiency. That's the number one thing that I try to preach, because I don't consider my brand Homo Money to be like very advanced information. I consider myself just very like basic starter 101 level. And, if I can communicate that to people, maybe I can in a certain way that they will resonate with, then maybe they can kind of go from me to somebody who is an expert in different topics. And kind of on that whole idea, I think it's so awesome that you guys have put yourself out there for being within a niche of a niche community, being Black, trans, LGBT, Hispanic, because I've heard interviews with people who are well-known authors like David Bach, who will say, like, he's been writing personal finance books for decades, and yet even his own kids don't really want to listen to him. And also Joe Saul-Sehy, who from Stacking Benjamins, he said the same thing. Like, he said that his kids who are millennials, they didn't want to like listen to him, kind of, even though he's been doing this for so long, they didn't want to hear his take on it. So he referred them to other people who were personal finance influencers. And then they're saying the same message, but in a slightly different way. And so I think it's so powerful that, all of us are attacking this messaging in our own unique style, because you never know how, we might resonate with somebody. And like Kenneth, you were saying, you weren't taught this growing up. And I think that a lot of us, even in my community, even in the white cisgendered LGBT community, the gay community, I do not hear my friends talking about personal finance strategies at brunch. They are like, they want to talk about anything but. And so it's almost like I needed to start a blog just to be able to like have somebody to talk to about this stuff. Yeah. So I commend you both for just like putting that message out there in your own unique style and flavor, because that's how it's going to resonate. Because even though there've been people out there saying the same thing, it's like, we need, the public needs to hear it in a very unique way. They need to hear it from people who look like them, who they can see themselves in your shoes. And so it's so powerful. That's why I'm so excited to kind of have this opportunity to give you both a little bit of a spotlight and a platform.
Sure. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So next question I have for you, were there any clear obstacles that you've encountered in your journey to financial independence that you think would not have been there if you were white? So being a minority, racial minority, because I want to really like people, they have different things, like the Racial Wealth Gap on Netflix is an amazing short, like 15-minute documentary. And somebody can watch that and really be impacted by these global trends of what's happening. But I think sometimes you need to hear the story from an individual, from that one unique person who's gone through that journey, to really bring that data home. So could you kind of share with us some of those obstacles that you think you've encountered for being uniquely on a journey as a Black man or as a Hispanic woman?
Yeah, I think, it's just privilege at the end of the day, like there's just things that I might not have access to because I'm not really aware of, because of just being who I am. I think, there's privilege in income class, right? Like, someone might reach coast-fi way more faster than me, or, and they might, because they have also maybe marriage privilege, right? Like they're married, so they have someone who can support them financially, right? If anything, because they're investing 60% of their income, right? As well as there's, there's so much privilege even through like even your gender, your sexuality, right? If you have children or no children, right? Like you could obviously invest more if you didn't have children, or, if you've had medical like disabilities as well. Like there's all these things that factor into it. All in my eyes, it comes down to privilege and what privilege do you have access to and not. Like if someone's making $30,000 a year, it's very, very, very difficult to live off of 40% of that income because they invested most of it, right? And we got to be realistic with where we're at in our statuses, right? And financial independence is so freaking unique to every single individual. And I really hate like this whole like financial independence, retire early like environment, because I just feel like it's like you have to make so much money to become this person, retire early at 40 and 45. And it's like, let's deconstruct this whole retirement system in the first place. Like why can't we embody our wealth now and feel like we retired now by just resting? That's the thing. Some people don't even take vacations. My community only works, all we know is how to work. And we have to deconstruct the fact that like rest is also a privilege. and that how can we embody wealth now versus in the future, because also tomorrow's not guaranteed. So when I think about, you know, the obstacles, it's like deconstructing all of these thoughts, all of these, like, I gotta make more money, more hustle, more hustle. And it's like, let's go back to how can we take care of ourselves mentally, right?
Right.
Because depression happens when you're hustling, trying to make all that money, and you know, you're like, oh, I'm going to invest a lot, so I'm going to live very frugally, you know, I'm going to live very frugal and not really travel and not do these and experience things when we can experience them now, you know. And so that's how I feel like there's so many obstacles between this financial independence, retire early journey, because it's like, it's not the same for everybody. We all have different socioeconomic backgrounds. And so we really have to be transparent about those.
So it sounds like an obstacle that may have come from your point of view is that being Hispanic, that the culture, the mindset is to be very blue collar, to just like work yourself to the bone and to never take vacations, to work 7 days a week. And so you had to really like blaze your own trail and create your own thinking paradigm to be able to kind of create a life for yourself that maybe you didn't get a lot of support, I'm guessing, because all the people around you, your friends and family, they only knew one way to kind of live their life.
Of course. It's like, you know, everyone around me, like my parents get so mad that I just take, you know, Wednesday off, or I decide to take Friday off. And it's like, I just want to sleep. Can I just, you know, sleep one day? I just want to sleep all day long. I don't care, and not feel guilty. Yeah. And that, because like, you know, I worked at a corporate job and I was dedicating 13 to 16 hours of my days to them. And then when I would take a break and just sit at home, I'd feel so shitty. Like, no, I need to be working. I need to be doing something, being productive. And then I started my journey. And it's like, you know, for me, financial independence is all about, can I take a day of rest? Can I financially support myself, take a day of rest without feeling shame, without feeling guilt, without feeling like, you know, oh my God, you know, my parents are out here working all day, but here I am taking this privilege of rest, and I get it. It is a privilege to rest. And so for me, financial, like in my journey, it's like I had to create my own vision of wealth and what that really is, because I'm being realistic with myself. I don't want to wait 10 more years to embody wealth. I want to live it now, because again, especially with the pandemic and everything going on, war, and so many problems internally with our own families and illnesses, is like, I want to be able to support myself now. And just, even if it's just taking a walk in the park for an hour, that is a version of wealth to me, because sometimes people don't even have the time to do that.
Yeah. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. How about you, Kenneth?
Yeah, no, that was great. The thing that like popped up in my head was just like, and I always let people know, like, when it comes to income, like even getting the privilege to have a job, that's very big, and especially within the transgender community, because it's just like you can't get past HR, and especially if they're not queer friendly, they're not going to accept like a male presenting person who's wearing lipstick and a dress. They're going to X that out, be like, oh no. And so like, how can they even get income? But on top of that too, then just understanding like capital, getting loans, like getting that capital to even start a business within yourself. Like Black people, especially like even like with the whole Wells Fargo, like Wells Fargo was charging Hispanics and African Americans more interest when they were trying to buy a home compared to like white counterparts. Like that's huge. So even stepping into that room to even get a loan to start whatever journey you want to be on, to even get like college loans, and even transgender people take on more debt. And then even for me, just like, for example, when I was in engineering, like when I was as like presenting as a woman back then, and then when I transitioned and I was stealth, and stealth means like where people can't tell that you're trans, I made $15 more the hour than I actually was getting when like I was a woman. And that like blew my mind. And I was just like, how is that even possible? And that's why I was thinking, like, imagine if I was a white male, I'll probably making like $20, $30 more in engineering, just doing those jobs and stuff like that. So just seeing like those privileges, and even safety, that's another one too. So even being Black and trans on top of that, and being male presenting and being a male myself, like I have a higher chance of getting shot compared to somebody who's white and they transition, they're safer than me. And especially if you're safer if you're transitioning into a male. A white male is like, oh, and if you're stealth, you have the whole world right there before you.
Right.
And the thing is, like, it's kind of messed up. And it's for us to like we're still behind them and trying to get like scraps of what we need to do to get where we were. And those are clear obstacles. Like, just so how can we get income? And then on top of that, we can't depend on our family. Like Leah talked about, like, our family does not have the capital of like giving you $5,000, even $1,000 just to start whatever business or entrepreneurship that you want to do for yourself. You're not getting that. So it's just like, where do I go? You have no options. You have no choices. And those are very clear obstacles before us. And then even trying to get there, that's how we just keep on taking more debt. And then even for Black trans women who are being murdered at a crazy rate, and if they had to do sex work to survive and get them, their records are holding them back, because then people are like, oh, you're a felon, or no, you're a criminal, you had a misdemeanor, or even just doing sex work. To even be known like that, they're going to get kicked out from those toxic work environments. So it's just like, imagine if you just had the privilege of like a white cisgender male. Like, it feels like the opportunities are endless, especially if you're trans. But that's why, like Leah and I, like, we make a path for ourselves and we like mow it down, because we're learning the rules to the game. And once you know the rules to the game, you're unstoppable. Ain't nobody, regardless of what situation you're in.
Awesome. That's a perfect segue to my last question. And before we get to that, I want to make sure that I spotlight how people can follow you on social media. Could you just give a quick shout out real quick to your social media handles and your websites?
Yeah, so my social media is Leah Landaverde, at Leah Landaverde on all social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, but I really don't post on YouTube yet. But my website's in progress. So if anything, just look at the link in my bio and you'll find it.
All right.
Oh, for me, everything is The Trans Capitalist. So even my Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you type in at The Trans Capitalist, you will find me. And even my website is www.thetranscapitalist.com.
Branding. Preach. All right. So last question for all y'all. So in spite of all the obstacles that have been put up against you, you were still able to persevere. And in the series, The Racial Wealth Gap on Netflix, there's a quote that they end with by Martin Luther King that says, if you started a financial foot race 300 years behind the starting line of the white racers, and somehow you caught up, that's like a huge feat. This is a huge undertaking, that even if there is equality or there's different policies put in place to kind of institute equality starting today, well, you're still starting 300 years behind the starting line. And so I would love to hear from you, like, what do you attribute your success? And is there anything from your story that you think other members of your community could implement and they could start doing today to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's true, even though, gay marriage was legal, almost 10 years ago, but still, like, it's just like, there's still so many things that we're behind in that we need to catch up to, right? And it's going to be just a constant catch up until, the next generation, has applied all these values and more, norms, right? Societal norms, as we become more just normal, like, right? Like, we're not special anymore. We're just the average Joe, right? We just happen to be queer. It's just, part of our identity, right? But until we get there, it's really just acknowledging that, hey, forgive yourself for your past, because we were in survival mode, and we've been in survival mode for a really, really long time. And a lot of people just feel a lot of guilt and shame that they don't even want to take ownership of their finances. They don't even want to look at it. They don't want to even open their bank account. And it's really just, I always say this, just accept what's happened and forgive yourself, honey, because, hey, we're all in this journey together. This journey to wealth is not linear. It is not just like a straight shot up. Like, if anyone tells you that, I'm sorry, but that's BS, because, life hits you with so many things in different directions, and we just gotta be real. We gotta be dynamic, and we gotta move, and, be dynamic to the situation. And also just, by preparing ourselves, that means actually looking at our finances, actually taking accountability for these actions, right? Whether it's just being able to save $500, and that $500 might have been the biggest, goal you've ever had in your life, and then moving on and taking baby steps, because this journey, like, everyone thinks it's all or nothing. And it's like, baby, let's, like, little by little by little, and
Go at your pace. Go at the pace that's right for you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I recommend, like, people, starting their journey, even though we might be behind in a lot of things, it's true. But, at the end of the day, we can hold ourselves accountable for what we're doing.
Kenneth, how have you been able to make these superhero leaps forward, despite your obstacles?
Yeah, for sure. And even just letting people know, like, you serve 300 years, that's for like cisgender people. So for trans, this is definitely like 600 years. Like, a lot has happened where people are not helping us or not even understanding our culture. But to really answer your question, and what I always preach is, knowledge is power. Nobody can ever take knowledge away from you. Once you know, you can do better. Like, once you have that, you're able to go wherever you want to within the world. Because on top of that, there are no more gatekeepers. Not like there's people who, like, the white cisgender men will keep you out and be like, oh, you don't need to learn that, or like, be quiet, or like, just turn you away. Like, no, we have Google, we have the internet, we have TikTok, we have social media. We have all these things where even all of us are spitting out our knowledge of what you need to do to get where you need to go. And I want people to start taking advantage of that. That's why I went to the library. That's why I dedicated myself those hours to learn those books and to even learn the jargon. I had to even learn the jargon before I even got to business school. And once I got there, I was able to excel, but I had to take that time to self-study. And I encourage everybody to self-study and start doing research as well. And also, don't take our words at face value. Like, learn what we're saying so you can prepare yourself, so you're not being taken advantage of by somebody else who would be like, oh, well, this trans person, they don't know nothing about money. So yeah, give me your 10K and I'll invest it for you. And then, like, run off in a scam where, unless like, now I know the jargon. Now I know, like, this man is talking BS. I'm not going to invest with this person, but because I have that knowledge, and like, that knowledge is so powerful because our ancestors didn't have that knowledge. And now we have the knowledge, and now it's our duty to pass on that knowledge so we can break generational poverty. So we don't have to keep living below our means and like be able to do something, because people don't understand, like, transgender people, especially people of color, are 4 times higher than the national average of being unemployed. So on top of that, if you can't get that job for who you are, use that knowledge to build that business for you, that brand in that business, just like I had to. And I had to thank all my successes for me taking the time to read, write, understand, study, and get that knowledge.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. To close out, I just want to say that for anybody watching this who is from the Caucasian community, there's an analogy that I make in my blog post about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've got this pyramid. At the base of the pyramid is just basic safety and security. And then as you move up, you kind of go into more of these privileged kind of different things that you're going to want to strive toward. And I'm not going to say that the entire white population has white privilege, because there's definitely people in poor parts of the country that are decimated, and they may think, I don't have privilege. What are you talking about? But, on a whole, I think systemically, if you just look at the trends and the data, it seems like, yes, I can see that white Americans, they are a little bit higher on that pyramid of Maslow's hierarchy, a little bit higher than Hispanic and Black Americans. And so I think that what I would encourage viewers to do is, if you're watching this, and you're a white person, take 15 minutes to watch The Racial Wealth Gap on Netflix, and maybe you'll identify that white people on a whole are maybe a little bit higher on that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's not really fair to judge somebody in their life choices when they're at the very bottom of that pyramid as a whole, their community as a whole, and they're doing whatever they can to survive. And I would also say that if you are a member of the Black community or the Hispanic community, don't give up and say, well, all the cards are stacked against me. There's nothing I can do. The man's just going to keep me down no matter what I do, because that's kind of like, I think, what they want you to believe, and you're abdicating your power. You're like giving it away and saying, there's nothing that can be done. And so pay attention to these smart people in the room, like Leah and Kenneth, who they are finding a way to navigate this and make it possible. Because the more that you surround yourself with these types of people who are finding success and achieving success, whether it's in person or whether it's in your social media feed, the more that you're going to start embodying that. And kind of like what Kenneth was saying, the more that you assimilate this type of information, the more that it's going to feel true to you. And you're going to just kind of like see these common threads, multiple people talking about the same thing, but maybe in a slightly different way. You're going to know what the truth is about finance. And when somebody comes at you with something that's out of left field, you're going to know that they're trying to sell something that's not really in your best interest. And so we really do have the power to educate ourselves. And I applaud all of you for, both of you for doing that. You've kind of taken control of your own destiny to kind of decide what your future is going to look like. Is there anything that you would like to say to close out?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like Ken was saying, like knowledge is freaking power. Knowledge is power. It really, by us putting the effort to learn more and to understand more, to be more intrigued about wealth, about finances, instead of, sitting in shame and sitting in guilt, right? We can regain our power through entrepreneurship, through just knowledge. Like there's so much power here. And like the wealth gap is $100 trillion compared to, Hispanic, Black, and the white community. Okay. The data is there. Go to the federalreserve.com. Like you could federalreserve.gov, like you could find it there. And the data is alarming. Okay. So it's in order to help, even make a dent, is by just empowering yourself to study, to, I like to make this analogy, like we all drive cars, but we're not all an expert in the cars, right? Like we drive them, we understand that, how to change a tire barely, but, we figure it out how to drive, Same thing with finances, is like, we just got to figure it out so we can navigate our own financial journeys, our financial lives, so that we can live comfortably and drive safely. That's really what it is. And that's how I like to make that analogy, because I'm not asking you to get into the nitty gritty, understand, the formula to volatility and beta and all this risk. Not, I just want you to understand the concept so you can protect yourself from anybody trying to trick you on, there's scams out there all day, every day. So, it's a level of protection. So
Preach. Nice.
Yeah, for sure. I would say, like, lastly, like we all got to heal. Whoever you are, like we have to heal our relationships with money, because that's the only way we're actually going to move forward. Like I have examples of so many clients that like they wouldn't do the steps that I were telling them because they just had so much anxiety or even depression or even just anger or all that financial trauma, I like to say, that a lot of people like to skip on. And it's just like when you heal that, you're able to open yourself up to receive that knowledge that you need to get you to the place where you want to go. So it's just like, take the time out and really start thinking about it. Self-awareness is really key. Like when you are self-aware, you can stop yourself from spending. Because like I used to spend it on like food because I was a foodie. And if I was sad or depressed, I would do takeout. But then my paycheck got eaten out because I kept doing takeout. And the thing is just like, why am I spending it? Because I don't feel good. And that's the thing. Like you need that self-awareness to understand your emotional problems. Because as we always say in the financial community, your spending habits are emotional. They're not logical. So you need to work with us to flip that, where now your steps are actually logical and you're not moving from emotions, where you're able to start looking 2 to 3 steps ahead of what you're going to do with your money instead of that impulse that will screw you out of that money.
Right. And instead of giving yourself some feel-good hormones from retail therapy, start getting some feel-good chemicals from saving money, from investing money, from seeing that grow. Stacking.
Stack that money.
Well, thank you both for joining me. This is Jeff with Homo Money, joined with Leah Landaverde and the Trans Capitalist, saying money doesn't have to be dry, and we're going to throw some water on that shit.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.